The new club owners where we were going to came, I think, and gave them a bottle of scotch or something and got us out.
Well, Paul and Pete got, deported and by the police for burning the condom on the wall. And so they were back before me, and John got back about 2 days later. I was really happy, thinking, oh, great. And then that's what the support of nature, you see. And Stuart just stayed there because he decided to get Varai-hearted with Astrid. So the second time we went back, when I was 18, that's when we were backing up Tony Sheridan. And at that point, this fella came into the club who was, they said, oh, he's this famous record producer and musician. He was called Bert Kempfert. And his claim to fame was he had a #1 hit in America. Not only was he a record producer, but he had a hit in America called Wonderland by Night. It was turned out to be a trumpet sort of solo. But he came in the club, and remember, this buzz went around, we've got to be good, play really good, we may get a chance to record, which we did. I think he came back 2 times, and then he said, oh, I want you to come in the studio with Sheridan and record, and we got all pleased with ourselves. And then we got to the studio, and he just wanted us to, back up Sheridan. I remember feeling a little depressed, but we did, nevertheless, get to do that, My Bonnie.
While we were out there, we started to see other groups and stuff and started to get a little bit dissatisfied with Pete. Not massively, but just a little bit of dissatisfaction started to creep in.
I seem to remember him, starting to not turn up for gigs, and then we kept getting Ringo in.
Ringo Starr, who had changed his name before all of us, and who had a beard and was grown up and was known to have a Zephyr Zodiac, which was a very big car in those days, I mean, nobody had this. It was knockoff, probably. It was, it fell off the back of a showroom. But
Ringo kept sitting in with the band, and every time Ringo sat in with the band, it just seemed like this was it.
And this happened 3 or 4 times, and then that was the end, We were just pals, and we'd have a drink after it, and then be the finish. I'd be back with Rory.
And around about this time, Stuart and I got a little bit fraught too. See, because I claim that what I was trying to do was make sure we were musically very good. But this did create a couple of rifts, and I can see now how I could have been more sensitive to it. But who's sensitive at that age? Certainly not me.
Well, when we first met him, he couldn't play at all. When he first got a bass. And he learned a few tunes. Occasionally it was a bit embarrassing. He didn't, if he had a lot of changes to it, he was... But he knew that too. That's why, he was never really that at ease being in the band, and that's why he left when we finished the gig in Hamburg. He decided to go back to art college. At that point, Paul was still playing a guitar, and I remember saying, well, one of us is going to be the bass player. I remember saying, and it's not me, I'm not doing it, and John said, I'm not doing it either. He went for it.
You tell lies thinking I can't see. You can't cry because you're laughing at me. I'm down.
And then we went back to Liverpool and got quite a few bookings. They all thought we were German. We were builders from Hamburg, and they all said, you speak good English, things like that. So we went back to Germany, and we had a bit more money the second time. So we bought leather pants, and we looked like 4 Gene Vincents, only a bit younger, I think.
Anyway, we got back to Liverpool, and all the groups there were doing this sort of Shadows type of stuff.
That's why, we became popular, because they couldn't believe it. There was all these dum-de-dum-de-dum-de-dum-de-dum-de-dum-de-dum, and then suddenly we come on, wild men in leather suits.
I think it was Pete Best said to them that, I would drive them to the gigs and stuff, and I think I got £1 a night, or £1 a gig, 5 bob off each of them. They needed transport to get them to the Cavern and whatever, because they were using cabs at the time.
We played the Cavern before we ever went to Hamburg, I believe, in the days when it was a jazz and folk club. I seem to remember playing there and them handing us these notes saying, stop playing this music. This is a jazz club. So we were saying, Well, now I'd like to do this tune by Lead Belly, and it's called Long Tall Sally. You know, we do. And finally.
Had a couple of requests to do a tune called Kansas City, so I'd like to do Kansas City.
So anyway, we did well at the Cavern and attracted some big audiences. And the word got around. What had happened was a kid had gone into Brian's record store and had asked for My Bonnie.
And then he found out that the Beatles was supposed to be a Liverpool band and they were playing the Cavern, so he went down the street and checked us out. Because I remember Bob Wooler, the disc jockey, saying, "And we have a Mr. Epstein who owns Nems Enterprises in here," and everybody was going, "Ooh, wow, you know, big deal."
This was quite a new world, really, for me. I was amazed by this sort of dark, smoky, dank atmosphere, this beat music playing away. And the Beatles were then just four lads on that rather dimly lit stage, somewhat ill-clad, and the presentation was, well, left a little to be desired as far as I was concerned, because I've been interested in the theatre and acting for a long time. But amongst all that, something tremendous came over. And I was immediately struck by their music, their beat, and their sense of humour, actually, on stage. And even afterwards, when I met them, I was struck again by their personal charm. And it was there that really it all started.
But anyway, Brian had this shop and, you know, it was good. We used to pick up the records and he had this big Zephyr Zodiac and he wanted to manage us and we weren't going anywhere anyway. So, you know, he said, yes, you might as well. Straight away, he got us some jobs, got us a bit more money and then started getting us radio shows and things like that. And then, you know, as we go ahead, we got into our suits. You know, he talked us out of the leather suits.
It was a bit sort of old hat anyway, all wearing leather gear. And we decided we didn't want to look sort of ridiculous just going on because more often than not, sort of too many people would laugh. It was just stupid. We didn't want to sort of appear as a gang of idiots. And Brian suggested that we just sort of wore ordinary suits.
It was later put around that I betrayed our heavy leather image that we had at the time, and I wanted us to get suits. But I seem to recall that we all went quite happily. I didn't have to drag anyone there to the tailors. They all went quite happily.
So, you know, we gladly switched into suits, you know, if we were going to get some more money, get some more gigs.
Brian was a beautiful guy, Brian Epstein, and he was an intuitive, theatrical guy, and he knew we had something, and he presented us well.
And when you hear the tape, it's pretty good. You know, it's not great, but it's good. And it's certainly good for then.
Dick Rowe, the man who didn't sign us, the head of Decca, he said, "Guitar groups are on the way out, Mr. Epstein."
Cha-cha-boom!
So Brian then had this tape which he hawked around. And I think it was somebody in the HMV shop on Oxford Street knew George Martin and told Brian to go and play the tape to George Martin, and then he gave us the audition at Abbey Road.
George had done little of no rock and roll when we met him, and we'd never been in a studio, so we did a lot of learning together. He had a very great musical knowledge and background.
Even though they had nothing really behind them, they were still fairly irreverent even in those days, which I loved. You know, I like a little bit of rebel in people, and I like their sense of humour. After all, that was my main stock in trade too, and I guess they quite liked what I've been doing with Peter Sellers and the Goons and that kind of thing. No, I think they had tremendous charisma. I knew that alone would sell them.
And we did a reasonable audition, not very good, but the thing he didn't like was our drummer.
And I said to Brian Epstein, when we do the next session, I mean, I don't want to interfere with the Beatles and what you're doing with them, that's fine, but I'm going to provide the drummer.
We really started to think we needed the great drummer in Liverpool.
Historically, it may look like we did something nasty to Pete, and it may have been that we could have done it better. But the thing was, as history also shows, Ringo was the member of the band. It's just that he didn't enter the film until that particular scene, you know?
It was a Wednesday, and Brian called. I don't remember John calling, though. It's in somebody's book. Would you join the band? And I said, what do you mean? He said, no, really join the band. And I said, sure, yeah, when? And he said, now. And I said, no, I can't do that. Because we've got these other 4 guys here. We've got a gig for months, and, you know, I can't just pull out now and it all end. So I said, I'll join you Saturday. Because we used to have Saturday off, because that's when they used to change the campers. So I gave Rory Thursday, Friday, Saturday to bring someone in, because to open again on Sunday, which I thought was giving him a hell of a lot of time. And that was it. We played the Cavern. There was a lot of fighting and shouting. Half of them hated me, half of them loved me.
There was a few people there who were shouting, Ringo never, Pete best forever. And after about half an hour, I said, oh, bugger off, or something. And stepped out of this, you know, the Cavern had this, it was 3 tunnels. And we stepped out of what was the dressing room into this dark tunnel, and some guy just like butted me right in the eye. That was a bad day. And then I walked under a bus, got hit by a double-deck bus.
George fought for me.
At this midday session at the Cavern, we proudly present the Beatles.
What actually happened was that when Ringo came to the session for the first time, nobody told me that he was coming. I'd already booked Andy White, and I told Brian Epstein I was going to do this. I said, I just want the 3 others, and that's fine. Ringo turns up expecting to play. I said, well, you know, I've been bitten once. I'm not going to have that. I don't even know you are. We're going to have Andy White, thank you very much.
No, I was devastated. I came down ready to roll, and we've got Andy White, the professional drummer.
Oh, dear. That's awful.
But he's apologised several times since as old George Martin. But it was devastating. And then we did that, which Andy plays on, and then we did the album, which I play on. You know, so Andy wasn't doing anything so great. He wasn't doing anything so great I couldn't copy when we did the album.
Oh, Ringo to this day bears those scars. He says, you know, you didn't let me play, did you?
Their first record did very well. It sold 100,000 copies. That was Love Me Do.
The best thing was it came to the charts in 2 days. And everybody thought it was a fiddle because our managers' stores send in these, what is it, record things? Returns. And everybody down south thought, he's buying them himself or he's just fiddling the charts, you know. But he wasn't.
It was bought by the kids. I mean, we had a big following.
Yeah.
And who'd had a record? You know, Arthur Askey was the last one, I think, out of Liverpool.
It got to whatever, 17 within the following weeks after it came out, and I don't recall what happened to then. It probably just died off and went. But it meant that next time we went back to EMI, they were really more friendly. Oh, yeah. Hello, lads, come in. Yes, okay.
But it was quite normal in those days to find material for artists by going to Tin Pan Alley and listening to all the publishers' wares. I mean, that was a regular part of my life. I would spend a long time looking for songs. And the songs I was looking for the Beatles was really a hit song. It didn't matter, so long as it suited the group. And Love Me Do, as I say, was the best one they were able to offer. The kind of song I was looking for, I did actually find. And that was a song by Mitch Murray called How Do You Do It? And I was convinced this was a hit song.
How do you do what you do to me? I wish I knew if I knew.
Not a great piece of songwriting, you know, it wasn't the most marvellous song I'd ever heard in my life, but I thought it had that essential element which would appeal to a lot of people. And we did record it. John took the lead.
How do you do what you do to me? I wish I knew. If I knew how you do it to me, I'd do it to you.
George said, well, it's a #1 song. You want a #1? This is it. We said, yeah, but we cannot go back up to Liverpool singing that. We cannot be seen with that song.
So we never issued How Do You Do It? But I did later give it to Jerry and the Pacemakers, and it did become #1.
How do you do what you do to me? I wish I knew. If I knew how you do it to me, I'd do it to you.
So George Martin says, well, have you got anything you'd like to do? We said, we've got a song called Please Please Me. This is one John had just written. And it was kind of slow Roy Orbison kind of thing. Come on, jum, jum, come on, please, please me. Big note at the end, just like Orbison.
And I'd heard Roy Orbison doing Only the Lonely or something, and I was trying to please me. That's where that came from. And also, I was always intrigued by the words of please lend your little ears to my please, Bing Crosby songs. I was always intrigued by the double use of the word please.
And I said, OK, we'll give it a whirl. Let's try your song. Let's see if it works. And we did. And at the end of that session, I was able to say to them, you got your first #1.